Hey, it's Tuesday. Let's talk about Bible colleges. All right, so welcome to another Chin-Wag, and it's good to have you with us. You know, it's always fun to hear different people's thoughts on what I should talk about, and usually I only reserve Monday for, you pick the topic, but one that really struck me, and a guy says, why don't you talk about Bible colleges? Now, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and hopefully come at it from a fair and balanced way. Where have we heard that phrase before? One of the scriptures that we often hear as it pertains to somebody wanting to become a full-time minister, and I hate that term, I really do. What I call it is, if you're going to want to work in a church full-time, I call it vocational ministry. All of us are ministers. All of us do ministry. It's another thing to do it as a vocation. And so people throw this verse out there. The NIV, New International Version, says in 2 Timothy 2:15, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Now, you go down to the King Jimmy Version, and we know this verse very well. Study to show yourself approved. Now, we use this verse in a lot of different ways, but one of the ways that I'm used to seeing it used oftentimes is for somebody who wants to become a youth pastor, a music minister, full-time pastor, a senior pastor, and people are saying, study to show yourself approved, so pay for Bible college. Now, here's where I have the issue. I think Bible college is a very good thing. I think seminary is a very good thing. I don't think, and I think it's very unrealistic. Now, again, it's my opinion, and someone asked me my thoughts on this, so I'm going to riff on it for a little bit. I think seminary, I think doctorates, and all these things are very good things to have. I don't think that we ought to go into this thinking that if I go to Bible college and get my degree, that I can instantly become a youth pastor and have a good full-time paying job. Now, in the workforce, and it's seen even more so here in my city because it's a smaller city. We're about 6,500 people. I grew up in Milwaukee, and I even saw it there. But in the workforce, it's typically when somebody wants to become a youth pastor. How many teenagers have you known grow up in church, seen their youth pastor, and say, I want to be a youth pastor? I've done it, and it worked for me, but a lot of times what will happen is then the youth pastor will say, okay, go into Bible college. and what happens there, the Bible colleges I know, at the end of the day, they're about $21,000 to $25,000 a year. You heard me right. That's not a mistake. $21,000 to $25,000 a year for Bible college. My wife is a nurse, and she did not pay anywhere near that for her nursing degree. My wife pays $75 every other year to renew her credential. Pastors will typically pay upwards of $150 a year to renew their credentials. Now, that's something interesting. So, people will go into these things and say, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to go into Bible college for 4 years and come out almost $100,000 in debt to become a youth pastor, a music minister. Now, this is where I was talking about before, going back to the small city thing, is just like the secular workplace, it's not what you know, it's who you know in order to land a full-time job outside of Bible school. I've seen this over and over again. Now, there are the rare cases where somebody's really sharp. They just they know what they're doing, and they land that full-time job. However, if you're going to take a youth ministry job, according to simplyhire.com, the average youth pastor salary as of February 21st, 2012 is $21,000 a year. Now, let's do the math there. You're paying $21,000 to $25,000 a year to go to Bible school to become a youth pastor, and you're only going to make on average $21,000 a year. Now, they may throw in a parsonage, and they might help you out here and there, but is it worth it? Now, I do think we need schooling for this. I do think you need to have some kind of training in this. And a lot of times these Bible colleges will offer a correspondence course. I know for me personally, in the Assemblies of God, Berean offers a correspondence course. There's a thing in Wisconsin called the District School of Ministry. You can get the same degree for the fraction of the price, and you're going to mentor under a pastor. Let me backtrack to my teen days. It was the thing to do. You grow up in an Assembly of God church in Wisconsin. You want to become a minister, you go to North Central. Okay, it's a good school. I'm not going to argue with that. However, I ended up applying. I got accepted. that alone was a move of God. And I got accepted. And then all of a sudden, it was as if God just set me aside and said, "Okay, Bob, now that you're done thinking about your plans, can you think about me for a minute?" And so I ended up listening to what God had for me. He said, stay home, go through correspondence, work under your pastor, mentor under your pastor, and it's going to take 2.5, 3 years. However, I am so thankful I did that. Number one, I got valuable training, valuable on-hands ministry experience by doing that. I was 18 years old and running a kids ministry, which was pretty interesting in and of itself. But I look back in those days, I just cherished them. And I got to do a lot of things, and I'm okay that I didn't have to experience the dorm life. I'm okay with that because it wasn't worth $20,000. There are a lot of good things about dorm life. It's just like school. You pick the crowd you want to run with, but there's a lot of negative things about dorm life as well, even at a Bible college. Some of my friends, the first time they ever experienced pot was at the Bible college. Now, I say all that because, I personally would say go the correspondence route and get some kind of a degree. There's another reason for this, and some people may disagree with me, but I think it's worthwhile talking about. It's because people will say, well, I don't need a piece of paper to do ministry. True, but the church hiring you does. Okay, my wife could not become a nurse unless she had that piece of paper. Does she need it? Could she have studied on her own? Absolutely. And she could have and she'd be a nurse in her own mind, but there ain't no place going to hire her without that piece of paper. Same goes true with ministry. You need to graduate from somewhere in order to have that piece of paper to get hired in as full-time vocational ministry. Like it or not, churches look at this. It's to safeguard themselves, make sure they have somebody legit, that they've gone through the loops and everything. This is a society we live in. And number two, it benefits you. It gives you opportunities to do other things beyond just youth ministry, senior pastor ministry, worship leader ministry. People look at your credential and say, oh, you're reputable, and so they hire you to do other things. I know that works for me to speak at Cornerstone and other places. I have a reputation, and that helps me, and I have credentials to back it up. Number two, it gets you parking spots really close to the door at the hospital. But number three, seriously, you do benefit tax-wise as well to have your credentials. You're considered self-employed, and you wouldn't be considered self-employed if you didn't have that credential saying you're a pastor. And so therefore there are some extra tax benefits that come to you, no different from any other job where you carry a credential that may have different tax benefits as well. There's a lot of pros and cons of Bible college, but I would say this: do not go into it wearing rose-petaled glasses saying, I will go to Bible college and I will graduate and I will be $80,000, $90,000 in debt, but I will get a youth pastor job. You know what? If you don't know anybody, you may end up taking a youth pastor job that pays zilch, and you'll be thankful for it. However, I was in that boat. I took my first youth pastor job. I got zilch as my pay. A couple years later, I went full-time, and I'm very grateful for that. And to this day, I'm a full-time vocational minister as well. So something to think about. I'd love to hear your thoughts. info@that'snotmygod.com. Sorry for this one being a little longer. A little passionate about this one, though. Post your comments here if you'd like. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I've been working since the break of day. I can't stop now.